Are you ready for your host? Here she goes.
Welcome to Diary of a Botox Bitch podcast.
Oh man, I can't get enough of your voice. Keep on talking.
I'm Dr Botox and you're listening to Diary of a Botox Bitch podcast. I hope everyone is well this evening. I have just come off stage myself. It's a Sunday evening here in Los Angeles. The weather is very windy and I was leaving this evening and I was thinking this is like driving in Irish weather. But yet, despite the fact that for many years I've driven in crazy Irish weather, the weather is so calm over here that when it's raining, the Angelinos and everyone who lives here can't drive in the rain and everyone freaks out. And even I was somewhat freaking out. I was working all day and then had a show at 8 o'clock today in North Hollywood. So I went to that. And then on the way back, I stopped into the Laugh Factory. There's a great show on there every Sunday night. It's hilarious. And funny enough, when I was leaving, I got a flyer for Tiffany Haddish is having a show there this week. And normally someone gives me a flyer. I'm like, no, I'm good, thank you. But I just was like, oh, it's Tiffany. I'm going to talk today about the celebrities who are really nice. Celebrities who are nice and who are cool. And I think this was inspired by getting the flyer because she's like a super nice person. So what I would say is there's a lot going on in terms of celebrity world and gossip. And even myself today, I had a full page in the Sunday World. So thank you very much for that write-up. Eugene is a great showbiz journalist. It's always easier to have allies in different countries and you can speak to one journalist that you trust and can work with and discuss. And, you know, I can't comment on anything per se about the newspaper article today at this particular point in time. But what I will say as well, there is a sizzle reel going around where I am being followed, I guess, doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles. And I'm part of a bigger, it's linked to an actual comedy club. And then as for the other shows, again, I can't comment on matters or whatever. And there's a press and publicity team who will put out statements in due course. So what I was going to talk about in today's episode was celebrities who I've met along the way who are nice. I don't get particularly excited by people. I was at a show this evening and funny enough, T.I. Payne jumped up on stage. He's a trap rapper, you know, he's old school and he does some stand-up comedy and he's funny. And it's just funny the people who surprise you who are exceptional human beings. I think one of the nicest people I ever met in show business, this is actually a funny story, was Ryan Reynolds. So a couple of years back, Ryan Reynolds was, his wife Blake Lively was shooting a movie in Ireland. And I don't think they completed it in the end. There was an accident on set or something and they left and that was the end of that. But during that time, Ryan Reynolds used to bring their child to a Montessori, like a kindergarten, on the same street that my clinic was in. And in the basement, I had my Botox clinic on one side of the basement. And then in the other basement, I had my production company, Unhinged Media. And on this particular day, there was a well-known and a great paparazzi. He's an Irish fella, John Dardis is his name. So I don't know if he ever listens to the Diary of a Botox Bitch podcast, but he's a good old soul. And he was outside. And on this particular day, we were doing a table read. Myself and Norma Sheehan had written a show called Hell is Other Mothers. And one of my favourite comedians in the whole world is Deirdre O'Kane. She's hilarious. She's an Irish comedian, genius writer, genius timing, just generally genius and funny and nice and hilarious. She's also a pretty good dancer as well. I think she won Dancing with the Stars. So basically we had a table read of this pilot that we had written and we'd submitted it to RTE and it was going through the process and we said, listen, come here, Deirdre, we're after writing a part for you. And would you like to come in and do the table read? And she didn't come in because of me. She came in because she's very good friends with Norma. And Norma is a tremendous actor, both on screen. She's been in Moon Boy and also in theatre. She's sold out shows all the time. One woman shows throughout the pandemic. She was doing Shirley Valentine. Amazing, amazing, amazing actor. And even more amazing human being. Anyway, Norma organised that Deirdre would come in. So it was great. We had the table read all set up and I remember looking out the window and looking up and it's like the basement, like the same as they have on Harley Street or like a brownstone in New York where there's an underneath and we were kind of in the basement and I was looking up and I saw this paparazzi John Dardis and I said, oh jeepers, I said, look, they're after finding out we're doing the table read. And you know, at the time I was off the back of, you know, I was kind of in the middle of shooting TV shows over there as well and reality TV and Norma had just done Moon Boy and Deirdre O'Kane was actually a Moon Boy as well with her and then that was on Netflix and there was just a whole lot going on and then Deirdre was presenting the Irish IFTAs and so we were all very high profile and I said, Jesus, John, I said, oh my goodness, the paparazzi are here. God almighty, would they just give us a minute to be creative people? And John said to me, we're not even here for you guys, you idiots. He said, Ryan Reynolds is in town and he drops his little one off at kindergarten around here, and along that road there are a lot of kindergarten and bougie kindergartens. So I said, oh right, fair enough. no big deal. And then we're kind of looking out for him. And we kind of went up the stairs, and I just remember I was like, oh God, it's Ryan Reynolds. Like I said, he's one of my favourite movies ever is that Christmas movie he's in. And he plays the guy who was very overweight, and then he loses loads of weight and he wins the girl. It's a hilarious movie. I could watch it every Christmas and 10 times over. Can't remember what it's called. But it's very funny. Anyway, so I was like, oh God, it's Ryan Reynolds. I love him. He's hilarious. And apparently he's a very nice person. And Deirdre O'Kane was coming up the steps behind me. We were all kind of looking, and she was like, oh yeah, Ryan Reynolds. And then I remember Norma coming out, and Norma was like, Ryan Gosling. I just love Ryan Gosling. And I was like, we were like, Norma, it's not Ryan Gosling, it's Ryan Reynolds. Anyway, we kind of popped the heads up, and there was no movement, nothing much going on. And all the paparazzi were there at that stage. And we were all in just sweatpants and messy hair because we were just doing a table read. So it didn't really matter. And we all just went back inside and we did what we were doing and said goodbye at the end of the day. And that was it. And I didn't really think any more of it. The next day, anyway, I was moving boxes out and putting them in the back of my car. And I had a white Range Rover Evoque at the time. And it was lifted up and I was putting stuff in. And who walks by me but Ryan Reynolds? Now, there's no paparazzi or anything. And I go, oh my God, this happens to me all the time. Actually, this episode should be about the times that I've actually done ridiculous things. So I go, Ryan Reynolds, how are you? He goes, good. And he was very nice. He's obviously like, this is some random blonde woman at the back of a Range Rover acting like she's like knows me or something. But he'd just been so much the subject of discussion the previous day and everything else. So I said to him, I said, listen, come here. I don't want to alert you in any way, but yesterday it was swarming with paparazzi here. And they were apparently trying to get a photograph of you bringing your little one, who I can see is with you now, to kindergarten. I said, jeepers, it's just appalling. You get no peace in your life. I said, desperate. And he was very nice. He goes, oh, thank you, and I said, look, we told them leave you alone, but sure, you know what they're like. And he goes, he was kind of looking at me as if like, who is this woman? But I was very nice and he was very, very nice. And then it was a very nice exchange and should have been adequate. But no, I couldn't leave it at that. I then say to him, I was like, Ryan, just to let you know, in the midst of it all, of course, we were down there doing a table read. And actually, just to let you know, and you wouldn't know this because you've just arrived here and Blake Lively's doing that movie. And you wouldn't know, but I'm kind of famous myself here. And sure, Norma Sheehan was with me. She said, if you're ever looking for anyone to be in a movie, you definitely want to cast her. As well as that, Deirdre O'Kane was here as well, another great actor and also an amazing stand-up comedian. And I had done a little stand-up at that stage, but not a huge amount. And actually, at one stage when we were in LA, I had dragged Norma to do some stand-up with me at an open mic. So I then proceeded to tell Ryan Reynolds that Norma was also a stand-up comedian. And he was very, very, very polite. At this point in time, I would have personally gone, you're a lunatic, and I would have walked away. He was incredibly nice. I then continued to mumble and go, so we were down there doing the table read and looking up, and didn't we see John Dargis, who we know is a paparazzi? And we were thinking he was there for us because obviously we're all known. But he wasn't there for us, he was there for you. But you weren't there, but you're here today. Honestly, I was just like, shut up, Danielle. He could not have been more gracious. So Ryan Reynolds is like a 15 out of 10 in terms of nice people. Also, obviously, gorgeous heart, gorgeous person, just really, really, really nice and super polite. He's Canadian. Canadians are always like that. So that brings me on to then, obviously, this evening I left the show that I was at and I got a flyer, and I was like, normally I would say, oh no, I'm good, I don't want a flyer because I don't really want flyers. And they said, oh, it's for Tiffany Haddish. And I was like, oh, I'll take a flyer. Tiffany's a lovely human being. About 7 or 8 weeks ago, she was hosting a show on a Monday and she was just so nice to everybody and chatting to everybody. And we were all in the green room afterwards. And again, I don't know her particularly. I didn't. Like, I know I'd kind of like a wave or a wink, but again, I don't want to be in anyone's space or anything like that and just let people do their thing. And, I had actually given her some Dermaface MD, gave her a triple peptide eye cream. And I just said to her, listen, because I feel like when comedians in LA are performing, a lot of the time it's off, they're working out new material. It's not like they're on tour and they're getting paid their $300,000 or $400,000 for the night, because that's the money that you make in America as a comedian. And when you're touring big arenas and whatnot, because if it's $100 a ticket and you're 4,000, do the maths or whatever, and they keep the door over here. It's not like in the UK and there's just big venues here. So anyway, Tiffany could be on a tour and making so much money, but when she's working at her material in between, and the same with all the good comics and the access and the people that I get to see here performing comedy, I always feel like it's such a blessing, and I'm always so grateful, because growing up in Ireland, there's not even open mics or anything. So if I go to somewhere and I get to watch Tiffany Haddish, Dion Cole work out some material, Kevin Hart jumps up, I'm like always grateful. I've just had so much gratitude, because this whole journey of comedy is such an apprenticeship, and you go through the motions and you go up the levels.